Labą dieną, gerbiami kolegos. Welcome to Šiauliai Academy of Vilnius University. Good morning, dear colleagues. Sveiki atvykę į Šiaulių akademijos, būtent Vilniaus universiteto Šiaulių akademijos organizuojamą jau 10-ąją jubiliejinę konferenciją. Regiono tematika tikriausiai mums visiems yra be galo svarbi, o šiandieną būtent tarptautinėje mokslinėje konferencijoje Regionas, istorija, kultūra, kalba susitinka įvairių sričių, tarpdisciplininių sričių mokslininkai aptarti labai svarbius regionams klausimus. Dear colleagues, today you are welcomed in the 10th International Scientific Conference, the region, history, culture, language, where all scientists, researchers from different scientific fields, interdisciplinary fields are meeting, discussing, and looking for issues very important for the region. Esu Vita Juknevičienė, Šiaulių akademijos docentė ir šiandieną būsiu šios tarptautinės konferencijos plenarinio posėdžio moderatorė. My name is Vita Juknevičienė. I am associated professor in Šiauliai Academy of Vilnius University, and for this plenary session, I will be the session's moderator. Taigi, gerbiami kolegos, leiskite pradėti mūsų tarptautinę konferenciją. Dear colleagues, let us to begin our scientific conference. Ir konferencijos atidarinimo sveikinimo žodžių norėčiau pakviesti keletą šios konferencijos iniciatorių, palaikytojų, ir mūsų bendruomenės narių. I would like to invite some colleagues who are initiators, who are organizers and supporters of this international conference for opening speeches. Pirmąjį norėčiau pakviesti žodžiui Lietuvos mokslininkų sąjungos pirmininką Vilniaus universiteto kokybės vadybos magistro programos pirmininką profesorių Dalių Serafiną. The first person who will give you opening speeches is the chairman of Lithuanian Scientific Society, head of the Quality Management Master Program at Vilnius University, Professor Dalius Serafinas. So, Professor, the floor is yours. Profesoriau, kviečiame žodžiu.
Hello, everybody. In order to save some time, I would speak in English, but it's a bit pity because Lithuanian language is the most beautiful language in the world and the most ancient language, and our conference is about language as well, about our culture and language. In order to make a better focus, I would share some couple of slides. When I speak, you can trace back my thoughts. I'm representing, as you see from my activities, I'm presenting social science, not humanitarian, but social science, and my topic is management and quality management. Yes. And in our research, we have a lot of research in culture. When we talk about quality management, we talk also about quality culture and culture itself. So in this matter, the culture is very important for social science as well, but for many other sciences, for biomedicine science also culture is important, and many other. When personality grows, usually he or she gets some questions, and these are who I am. Where did I come from in this world? What is my mission? What is the path of my life? Where does it lead? Sense and knowledge of history, culture, language help us to find this answer. Preservation of unique culture, language, and historical memory is important not only for scientists, but also for communities, businesses, state. By preserving national identities, revealing and uniting them in joint activities, we gain new experiences, thoughts, insights. We can form better personal, organizational, and national decisions. On the other hand, we live in difficult times. Identity issues are often overshadowed by pursuit of material values, excessive consumption, and the satisfaction of wishes of the clients. I emphasize the clients, not the citizens. The apologists of creation of new human have not disappeared. They were active in gloomy Soviet times. They are still active today. They create a standardized user detached from its natural culture, language, heritage. Such a standardized, unthinking, highly consuming person, for me it's hard to name him as a person, is needed for existing economic system, which is based on ever-increasing consumption, usually at the expenses of quality of life and nature. Having the consumer, not citizen, satisfies not only businesses as usual, but also governments. After all, 2/3 of budget revenues comes from VAT and excess duties. These taxes are consumption taxes. So everybody is involved in increasing of consumption and destroying our world. The consequences of such actions are tragic for the development of individual, the community, the state, and the world. It hurts me personally as well. My homeland, Lithuania, a national origin state that protects one of the oldest and soundest languages in the world, is the fastest vanishing state in the world. We have lost almost 1/3 of our citizens. Lithuania's ecosystem, soil, forest, waters are recklessly polluted and destroyed on an unprecedented scale. Why? Because maybe of culture, maybe of our understanding who we are. People have nothing left to do in the countryside, in small towns, and in Šiauliai, as I know, also is a very bad demographic situation. They separate themselves from their homeland. They are kindred like the dust out of the earth and scattered by global winds. However, the diagnosis is not needed to spread despair, and it needs to focus our efforts and forces on joint action to preserve our authentic cultures, languages, history. This is necessary for each of us, our children, and future generations. Thank you for attending this conference, and I believe that your research and insights will make a significant contribution to creating a more beautiful and safer world. I wish you pleasant communication and cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Professor. Professor is the chairman of Lithuanian Scientific Society, as well as the chairperson of the Quality Management Master Program at Vilnius University. Thank you, Professor, for emphasizing very important issues which touches everybody in our society. So we hope that this conference will be a nice platform for scientific discussions, how we can contribute to a better life, welfare of the state as well as the society, and to keeping the emphasis of issues of heritage, language, and history, gaining more benefits for us as citizens. So thank you very much, Professor, for this welcome speech. Now, if you let me, I will be turning myself just to English language to ensure that all participants, including international ones, will understand our speeches. So I would like now to invite the second colleague for the opening speech. It's our Vilnius University Šiauliai Academy Deputy Head for Research, Professor Diana Cibulskienė. Kviečiu Vilniaus universiteto Šiaulių akademijos direktoriaus pavaduotoją mokslui, profesorę Diana Cibulskienė. So, Professor, the floor is yours. We hope that you will have possibility to share your opening speech.
Thank you very much, Vita. So, good morning to all participants of this 10th International Interdisciplinary Conference. What is I am very happy that it's 10th conference and we have this possibility to meet online. It's pity that we cannot see in Šiauliai all of you, but I hope that next year we will have possibility in reality to meet in Šiauliai and to discuss in live. So I am very glad to welcome all of you in this online conference organized by Vilnius University Šiauliai Academy. And as well, I am very happy that in the merging processes, Šiauliai University with Vilnius University, we are continuing our traditions, and it gives us more possibilities. And I hope that next year we will be as well in this conference. Many thanks that you are attending this conference. Many thanks for the organizers that made the great job to organize this big event of 2 days. There are so many participants with very interesting presentations. What is very important for us to discuss about the region, the history issues, culture issues, language issues. They are very, very important. Thank you that you are analyzing that you're discussing about that. And I wish for all of you very interesting presentations, interesting discussions, interesting these 2 days to be together, to discuss, to see online, but to have this opportunity to meet. So, and I said, so I hope to see all of you or meet all of you next year in Šiauliai in the 11th conference. So have a nice day and till next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, the Deputy Head for Science, for Research, in the Šiauliai Academy of Vilnius University. And now I would like to invite the last person for the opening speech, but very important, I guess the most important person in this conference, because Regina Kvašytė, I think that every participant knows very well. And Associated Professor Regina Kvašytė is the chairperson of the conference scientific committee and the head of Canadian room. So, Professor, the floor is yours. Kviečiame konferencijos mokslinio komiteto pirmininkę, Kanados auditorijos kuratorę, docentę Regina Kvašytė, sveikinimo žodžiai. Professor, please.
Thank you, Vita. Dear speakers and listeners of the conference, on behalf of the scientific committee, congratulations to all those who joined in. The 10th International Interdisciplinary Scientific Conference, Region, History, Culture, Language is taking place at an unconventional time in May, while we were waiting for improvement due to COVID-19, but we only had blooming spring. Also, we always like to meet and invited for you to come to Šiauliai. The situation caused by COVID-19 for the second year in a row does not allow us to communicate face-to-face. We can't meet in Šiauliai, but that didn't stop, maybe even of the contrary helped, the virtual connection of 60 speakers from 8 countries. We have not had so many participants for 9 years. after the first conference was attended by about 80, but back then we invite representatives of the humanities and social sciences. Later, we narrowed the circle of participants. We focused on the humanities. Although there were also individual participants from other fields of science, there are some of them this year as well. We are glad that there are as many as 53 presentations in the program of the anniversary conference. The authors are from Lithuania and 7 foreign countries. From Latvia, 15, 3 from Slovakia and Ukraine each, and 1 from Estonia, Croatia, Poland, and Russian each. 4 sections were formed: researchers of history, language, arts, culture. There will also be 2 plenary sessions. Today, together with Researchers Excellence Network, RENET, and tomorrow, the final plenary session, which this year focuses in Šiauliai and North Lithuania, as well as the history of one of Latvia's regions, Latgale. I would like to extend the welcome word with word of thanks. Thank you for being loyal to our conference, and wish you all enjoy fruitful work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for Associated Professor Regina Kvašytė as the head of the scientific committee of this conference, and we are all very thankful for you, for your all efforts to keep the conference going on, even in the context of pandemic. So thank you very much, Professor, for being a heart of this conference. And now it is my big honor and pleasure to start the conference with the first presentation, which will be done by researcher Dr. Martin Škaprans from the Institute of Latvian History, University of Latvia. And today, our colleague is going to present us a presentation about collaboration and resistance during the Second World War in Latvian social memory.
Yes, hello, good morning everyone. Thanks for inviting and thanks for accepting my paper, and it's a really honor to open this conference, the first plenary session, with a topic that is a topic that has been a hot topic in Latvia for years, and it deals with perhaps with the most controversial period of Latvian history, and namely the World War II. And my paper is going to focus on collaboration and resistance, in particular in the context of statelessness, to use the concept that has been often used also by, for example, in recent writings by Timothy Snyder, arguing that statelessness is the main reason why there were such atrocities in the Baltic states and in Poland during the World War II, because of this statelessness that was created by 2 totalitarian occupation regimes. But in light of Latvia, I should emphasize that collaboration and resistance has been a core issue in terms of World War II that has generated persistent tensions in Latvian society for the last 20 years or so. And one of the main, of course, questions when we speak about these controversies has been where to draw actually the line or boundary between heroism on one hand and betrayal on the other, in terms of this statelessness, or in terms of this double occupation, if you like. So the aim of my paper is to understand how. So having said this background set this background, the aim of my paper is to understand how the contemporary Latvian society treats the collaboration resistance nexus in terms of World War II. And let me start by emphasizing some conceptual things before introducing some findings of my recent research, namely that, and I think I should also stress that I'm originally trained in social science, so there will be maybe some reference to more or don't be surprised that there are some things which are more maybe related to social science, but I think this is an interdisciplinary conference, so it fits very well here. So what I wanted to stress in terms of this conceptual or ideational background, the paper is not focusing so much or not aiming to discuss the conceptual nuances of resistance and collaboration. At the same time, of course, I acknowledge that resistance is a complex term, meaning there can be armed and non-violent resistance, and these two different types of resistance do not overlap necessarily. And collaboration also, in terms of World War II, can be intentional and unintentional. And again, this creates a bunch of problems when we try to analyze society in this period. But what my paper does, it focuses on how these two phenomena are represented in the contemporary Latvian social memory. And of course, here is a very tricky thing, how collaboration with one totalitarian regime and the collaboration acts, which are at the same time also can be seen as resistance to the other totalitarian regime, how they are perceived or interpreted by Latvian society. So conceptually, my paper is based on Asman, Aleida Asman's approach to memory, to collective memory, to social memory, actually, where she speaks about four formats of memory: autobiographical, cultural, political, and social. But for the sake of time, I will just focus on political memory to outline the general background in terms of resistance and collaboration during the World War II in Latvia. And then I will follow, then the analysis of social memory will follow, just to set the background. So Aleida Asman defines political memory as a top-down memory, namely all the decisions, practices taken by political elite, this time Latvian political elite, can be seen as a part and parcel of political memory. So when we speak about political memory in terms of collaboration and resistance in Latvia, in World War II. First, it should be emphasized that Latvian political memory of World War II is embedded in the two evils paradigm, or if you maybe to take more neutral label, double aggression paradigm, which is very common also to Lithuania and Estonia, I guess, namely that that both Soviet and Nazi regimes should be treated in a morally equal way, and historical also. They should be seen as occupation powers in this region. So, and this intertwines all the memory politics and political memory of Latvia. Different initiatives by Latvian politicians have been taken over the last 20 or 30 years, actually, to honor resistance to the Soviet or Nazi totalitarian regimes, and there are different different political initiatives, including that the status of the members of national resistance movement and of the participants of World War II is enshrined in Latvian legislation. Even few years ago, when there were new amendments in Latvian constitution in 2014, when the preamble was introduced, it is said in the preamble that the people of Latvia did not recognize the occupation regimes, resisted them, and regained their freedom. So on the most highest constitutional level, this resistance during both occupations is enshrined and emphasized. So there have also been some recent discussions about the commemorative days of national resistance in Latvia on the most highest level, led by the president of Latvia, and you can see him here actually laying flowers in the this year on the 17th of March, which is supposed to be or is envisaged to be as this commemorative day of Latvian national resistance movement, but it's still under discussion, which will be the exact commemorative date. But nevertheless, it should be. On the other hand, now I just outlined the situation in terms of resistance, how it is treated in Latvian political memory. But when it comes to collaboration and collaborators in terms of both occupation regimes, then the situation is more problematic. Maybe that would be the right way how to characterize it. The Latvian political memory has made local collaborationism and collaborators in the World War II relatively invisible and insignificant. To some extent, one could argue that that's you know, the nature of political memory to overlook problematic episodes of national history and emphasize more solidifying or mobilizing episodes. But having said that, it's still important to emphasize that there is this strong consensus that there has been resistance, but actually no consensus or maybe concealment of collaboration. But at the same time, it should be said that there are several, you know, evidences that illustrate that even in terms of this concealment, there are you know, some evidences in Latvian political memory that collaboration has been, during the World War II, has been treated by political elite and has been recognized. For example, in a very early years of Latvian, when the independence was restored in Latvia, namely actually in the 1990, after the Declaration of Independence was adopted by Supreme Council, there was also another document, declaration on the condemnation of and inadmissibility of genocide and anti-Semitism in Latvia adopted, where it was said, and I'm quoting, "It is deeply regrettable that Latvian citizens have been among those who helped to carry out the terror proposed by the occupiers." So, end of quote. So there is already one evidence of that recognition. And other evidence is a very recent one, and which illustrates actually the hardship or the problematic situation and conditions in which political elite should, so to say, should approach this collaboration during the World War II. Namely, there was a incident actually that caused public outrage in 2019 when the then President Raimons hold a speech due to the commemoration of Soviet deportations on the 25th of March. The same you have in Lithuania and also in Estonia, the huge Priboj operation in 1949. And in this speech, Raimons Vējonis emphasized, and I quote, that along with sending all the commemorative messages and emphasizing the victims, he also said, and that was quite exceptional comparing with other presidents, that Soviet repressions would not be possible to such an extent without the resistance of Latvians who had without the residents. Sorry, Soviet repressions would not be possible to such an extent without the residents of Latvia who had started active collaborationism with the occupation regime, namely with the Soviet regime. So, and this caused held at the Monument of Freedom in the very center of Riga. So we can see that that collaboration is still a very problematic, if not to say, suppressed or topic in Latvian political memory. But now I want to turn to social memory, keeping in mind this very strong consensus on resistance on the one hand and invisibility of collaborationism during the World War II. On the other hand, now I want to speak about social memory that Alaida Asman has defined as a bottom-up memory, namely the memory that comes and is aggregated, if you like, and is shared among common people, and it does not necessarily need a political mantle or political should not be politically accepted by political elite, but it is situated in dialogue with this political memory, of course. So, and it is a shared attitude, societal consensus, but also differentiation towards history, in this time toward the World War II history. And what I'm going to do now, I will use some nationally representative survey data that we have collected over the last 10 years that outline different aspects of the of resistance and collaboration during the World War II, namely the attitude of Latvian society towards these two issues. And these are national representative surveys, so you can generalize them, and they are generalizable, these data, which will be presented to you. So first, I want to speak about a very recent survey that we finished this year in spring, where we asked Latvians to express their attitude towards people who supported either the Soviet occupation regime or Nazi occupation regime. And in both situations, I hope you can see these data also, and I will try to interpret and contextualize them. Latvians overall demonstrate, by Latvians I mean not ethnic Latvians, but as a Latvian society, Latvians demonstrate a rather polarized attitude towards collaboration during World War II, as we can see. And a negative attitude is significantly higher towards Nazi collaborators. On the 1/4 of Latvians hold 1/4 of Latvians holds positive attitude towards Soviet collaboration. On the other hand, so there is this asymmetric kind of situation. There's a clear kind of condemnation of Nazi collaborators or recognition of Nazi collaborators, but not so clear when it comes to Soviet collaboration. Also, it should be emphasized, you can't see it in these graphs, but if you calculate both graphs and see those respondents who in both questions have answered that they condemn supporters of both regimes, that it is around 30% of Latvians who condemn supporters of both regimes. So 1/3 roughly that condemns the supporters of both totalitarian regimes during the World War II. But an equal number, 29% of respondents, negatively assess only supporters of the Nazi occupation regime, but they accept what I call the pro-Soviet paradigm, namely they express a positive assessment, or if not a positive assessment, then at least they do not express explicit condemnation of the supporters of the Soviet occupation regime. So there is a clearly one-sided view of collaboration and a morally differentiated approach to both collaborations. And on the whole, these data show that the two evils paradigm that is the core, as I tried to illustrate, the core of Latvian political memory, is more likely to be supported also by ethnic Latvians, not generally by all Latvian society, whereas a pro-Soviet paradigm, namely when only the collaborators of Nazi regime are condemned, is more likely to align with non-Latvians, or to be more precise, with the ethnic Russians and Russian speakers in general in Latvia. So there is this clear-cut and polarized pattern in Latvian Latvian social memory. Also, when it comes to collaboration, not only when it comes to resistance, but also when it comes to collaboration. And it should be at the same time emphasized, as you can see in this pie, the biggest share in both graphs is people who may be called as indifferent or apathetic towards these issues, towards collaboration. Namely, we can see that those who have not been able to express a clear attitude towards support towards the supporters of both regimes creates 27% overall. In those who, in both situations, in both questions, they did not express. So it's a very large share, or very large group of ignorant, apathetic respondents. Among them are more women and young and representatives of the youngest generation, namely those in the age group 18-30. And to some extent, that suggests that there is forgetting or amnesia going on, so to say, in Latvian social memory with respect to the World War II in general, and with respect to collaboration in particular. Now, let me turn to other interesting phenomenon that is more focused and deals with the issue of Latvians who served either in German army or in the Soviet army or Red Army during the World War II. Many of them were conscripted, but some of them joined voluntarily these armies. But it doesn't matter so much who did what, and I just want to add that around 115,000 Latvians were in the Nazi German army, and around 80,000 in the Red Army during the war. But it's not so important to discuss in what way they became as soldiers or took part in these armies, but how they are treated nowadays. Because they are very often in Latvia mentioned in terms of collaboration or resistance, or both. And it is one of the most dividing issues, if you like, still causing tensions in particular dates, namely 16th of March and 9th of May. And therefore, it's interesting to see how it is treated in Latvian society. And these are, again, data from this year. And what we can see that Latvians' attitude towards co-nationals who were conscripted into or who voluntarily joined the Red Army or German Army provides even more fractured image of social memory. And we can see that an inconsistent attitude towards Latvian soldiers as collaborators is quite obvious from these data. Namely, while 23% of Latvians blame or think that Latvians who were in German army should be treated as Nazi collaborators, only 6% think that those Latvians who were in the Red Army should be treated. Oh, sorry, it shouldn't be not Nazi collaborators, but Soviet collaborators. There is a big mistake on the right side on the right graph where it deals with Red Army. It should be the yellow share in the pie is the communist collaborators, not Nazi collaborators, of course. So that this shows that this is inconsistent. This supports my argument about inconsistent approach to soldiers in both sides. Although in Latvian political memory they are treated more or less in the same pattern.
Dear colleague, we would like to ask you to try to finish your presentation.
I'm coming to conclusions now. And we'll leave these because these are the same data about Latvians in both armies, but in the 10 years perspective, where we can see some changes, and we can see that more maybe integrated approaches has increased in Latvian society. But to conclude, speaking about the survey data, which maybe I did not have time to present fully, but they suggest that there is no strong consensus in Latvian society on collaboration and resistance during the World War II, and generally it is driven, or the lack of consensus can be explained by differences among ethno-linguistic groups, of course, but not only. And there is increasing polarization at the expense of ignorance in general towards history. That increases polarization between opinion groups that still care about these issues of World War II. And finally, the only possible basis, I don't know if you could focus so much on the last graph that I showed you about Latvians in both sides in both armies, but these data show quite clearly that the only possible basis for consensus building in Latvian society when it comes to also to collaboration and also to resistance still remains a holistic integrated approach that demonstrates a consistent attitude towards heroes, victims, and collaborators in terms of both Soviet and Nazi occupation regimes. Thank you for your attention, and yeah, I'm ready for any questions in a Q&A part of this general section.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martins. Your presentation was very influential and very interesting to listen. But if we will move to all questions, I guess we will lose more time. So if you do not mind, please think about questions for Dr. Martins, and all colleagues are invited to give questions on the chat line, and at the same time to keep for the discussion part. So thank you very much, Dr. Martins, for your presentation, and we hope for fruitful discussion in the discussion part. So if you don't mind, we would like to move to the second presentation, and now I would like to invite our colleagues, assistant researchers, Dr. Richard Zholedzewski and Dr. Gleb Belayev. Our colleagues are presenting two institutions, Karol Lipinski Academy of Music in Wrocław, Poland, and Daugavpils University in Latvia. And today our colleagues are going to have a presentation, Polish-Latvian Instrumental Opus 2. So, dear colleagues, if you are ready to present, to share your screen, we would be very grateful.
Yes, hello everybody. Polish-Latvian music and its importance in contemporary music as exemplified by the Octopus duo. contemporary creativity, including contemporary music, permeates more and more in various areas of our multicultural reality. At the beginning of the 21st century, this is even more visible in all areas of our life, including music. This is undoubtedly dictated largely thanks to the internet as a medium that explores more and more all areas of our life, including the artistic activity of contemporary composers. Four profiles of artists from Wrocław and Daugavpils who write music for the Octopus duo. Christian Kelm graduated in composition and in music theory from the Karol Lipinski Academy of Music in Wrocław. He has composed several dozen pieces for various instrumental, vocal and instrumental ensembles. His works have been performed, for instance, in Europe and USA at music festivals, interpretation courses, performance competitions, also as obligatory works. Since 1992, he has been professionally connected with the Karol Lipinski Academy of Music in Wrocław, where he has conducted the composition class as well as seminars for students in composition and theory of music, and has taught theoretical subjects. He has received numerous prizes, distinctions, and state decorations. Richard Żolędzewski studied saxophone at Konservatorium für Musik und Theater Bern, Hochschule der Künste Bern in Switzerland. He studied contemporary music, its artistry and composer's technique with Henry Husser, Belgium, and Urs Peter Schneider, Switzerland. Professor Richard Żolędzewski leads the saxophone class and is the head of the brass instruments, percussion and accordion department at the Karol Lipinski Academy of Music in Wrocław in Poland. He performed many concert tours with saxophone recitals and chamber concerts in Europe, Asia, and North America. As a soloist, he gave concerts with outstanding orchestras, performing in philharmonics and renowned concert halls in Austria, Belgium, Belarus, Canada, Kazakhstan, Netherlands, Latvia, Poland, and Ukraine. He is also the author of saxophone books, compositions, arrangements, and publications in Polish and English. Daugulis works in Daugavpils University since 1995. At present, he is professor, dean of the music and art faculty. His scientific activities are very intensive, but also very important is his creative work. Since 1980, he is leader, arrangement author and composer for the folk music ensemble Rakari. Ensemble published numerous recordings, for example, vinyl plate Latgale, audio cassettes Labakar, Latgale and Tradicinė un Populāri, CD Pret Straumi and others. Ensemble Rakari participated at different international festivals and folk music events. He is one of the leading specialists in folk music that clearly seen also in his academic music works, for example in trio for saxophone, violin and piano. Gleb Belyaev graduated from Liepaja Secondary Music School, class of Tatiana Volinska. Additionally studied composition with renowned Latvian composers Adris Engelmanis and Romuald Karlsons. Gleb Belyaev continued his music studies at Jāzep Vītols Latvian Academy of Music with Professor Rafi Karadžaņān, graduating with a master degree in 2012. As Erasmus program student, studied in Vienna with Professor Oleg Meisenberg. Gleb Belyaev successfully participated in numerous piano competitions. At present, Gleb Belyaev is an assistant professor and head of music department at Faculty of Music and Arts of Daugavpils University. He is still active as concert pianist and gave recitals and master classes in Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Estonia, Kenya, and other countries. Also, he is regularly invited as jury member to different international music competitions. Duo Octopus has the expressive, elegant, and masterful way of writing and playing music, which is characteristic of the Slavic sound, allows artists to present national features as well as constantly discover new perspectives in contemporary creativity, promoting contemporary Polish and Latvian music, the music of composers from Daugavpils and Wrocław.
Yes, thank you for attention. Of course, I hope maybe on next conference we will play live, because now it was like also some opening concert. But situation is as it is, and maybe I think it's very important because because I am sure that music also is a language, and it is language that unites all countries and people from different countries, musicians, and music, especially instrumental music, is a language that understand everybody and that we can communicate. So I think it's very important, this musical cooperation.
Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful piece of art with us. And for sure, I guess everybody in this conference understood this international language of music. So thank you very much for your nice presentation. And I just hope that some colleagues will have some questions for you about your creation processes and so on. So please, dear participants, you may give some questions for our presenters in the chat line as well as orally in the discussion part. We would like to invite the next presenter, and it will be Assistant Professor Dr. Jana Pecnikova from the Department of European Cultural Studies, Faculty of Arts, Matej Bell University in Banska Bystrica, Slovakia. And she will present us the presentation about transformations of region memory in cultural landscape.
Thank you very much. So after this musical presentation, we are going maybe back to reality and let's say the monuments and culture in region, in memory, in a different context. Today I would like to talk on the what's maybe cultural landscape is, a little bit of introduction. And then I would like to show you some transformation of region memory in different cases. It means different examples from Europe. So before we start, I would like to say that I decided to use for my presentation the photos from Šiauliai, because it was maybe a few years ago when I went to this town and I was really inspired of how cultural landscape of this city looks like. So after this time, I mean like about 3 years, I'm now talking in Šiauliai about cultural landscape. So what the cultural landscape is? Landscape is something really not easy to define in a few words, but I decided to use the quotation of Aldo Leopold. He said that we abuse land because we regret it as a commodity belonging to us. When we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. So the study of cultural landscape deals with different interpretations of meanings and relationship between man and place. And it's not only about one particular research field, but it's interdisciplinary research that connects several disciplines. And I belong to culture studies, so I am just looking on cultural landscape from the point of view and the research methodology used in culture studies. For today's presentation, I would like to put together the context of cultural landscape and memory, because the perception of cultural landscape is largely dependent on access to memory. It's called also lieu de mémoire. It's kind of concept that reflects many different cultural interpretations and, let's say, a memory landscape. Especially, it's a reflection of historical identity, when historical identity can be seen as an advantage, but also disadvantage, because sometimes we just do not know what meaning the different culture futures around us symbolize, so what's the meaning behind them. So the cultural landscape is a place of remembrance because people naturally express a collective and coherent identity associated with locality. It means that, to me, it's not easy to understand who is the person on the photo, but I'm sure that many of you from Šiauliai, you are sure and you know who is this person. It means that to interpret the cultural landscape, you have to really understand the history and the memory, and also be linked with the place. So if we continue with the cultural landscape and memory, the memory of place is often based on stories associated with feelings and belonging, roots and heroism. what we can observe, and as a very important monuments in cultural landscape, it's dates and personalities. So there are some statues or some tables on buildings, so they have to tell us why it was important, what was important. But this kind of reflection of the past is not only in this passive form, but also in active form, because these manifestations can take also an active form of various activities, of events that keep memories alive in the community. So we see and we can observe the different manifestations linked to the identity and to the place. And it makes a cultural landscape be alive and not only observing and studied in a passive form. What's the problem in cultural landscape, and what we search for is not only how it looks like and what is it, but also it's important if there is enough of those who still remember. And the question is also what we remember and also who remembers. And now the trend of cultural amnesia is manifested in society. I think that was also my colleague from Latvia talking about that. We really we are just losing our memory. It means that we do not know why it was and what happened. And now it's a trend. So the cultural landscape is easily transformed under this new form because we are not sure what to remember and how to remember. So that's about this. And one very important factor in research of cultural landscape is post-memory. Post-memory is a concept created by Marian Hirsch, and post-memory deals with trauma, especially trauma in families, and this post-generation becomes the bearer of memories, references, expressions in art, literature, architecture, cultural landscape. This experienced trauma manifests itself on a personal, collective, and cultural level, and it's transmitted through the life stories and memories. And especially in the case of post-memory, we talk about the Holocaust and period after Second World War. But also we can say that in research of cultural landscape, we can say that a place or a city or let's say a house can carry trauma and talk about it without the words. It means that the post-memory is quite a new concept, very well developed. It developed in Poland, and some experts deal with this topic in Slovakia because we have a really experience with the Second World War. But as I heard today, also in Latvia and Lithuania, I think it's almost the same. And why I've decided to put this building on the slide, it's because when I was in Šiauliai, I was surprised. When I entered into this house, I found a different Šiauliai I was walking in. I mean, like it was, I heard the story about the city was destroyed and only some buildings saved. And this is one of them. And when you enter, you can hear music and you can see the Šiauliai from before. So I was really very surprised about how the city was before. But also what's very important, and also I will connect it with Šiauliai, even I'm not expert on Šiauliai, it's the traditions and different crafts and arts presented in a public space. So back to the memory footprint of cultural landscape is most affected by culture of everyday life, which shows what we remember and what we maintain in the form of traditions. It consists of culture patterns and rituals that are repeated and determine the typical features of a given culture. That was the case in Šiauliai when I saw that there is a very, very special creatures and futures and I don't know what, somewhere in a public space. And almost everywhere there is a kind of public art. So I would say that for me it was a kind of cultural identity of a city that is represented by art. And when we talk about back to cultural tradition and memory, it can contain also artistic and creative elements. It's folk, creativity, crafts, and etc. And cultural landscape and institutions, it means that if we talk about cultural landscape, of course, institutions are very, very important. So we talk about museums, galleries, monuments, and also a community that maintains customs and traditions. And through the artistic expression, culture reminds us of the values and virtues of our past. So this was just a general introduction into what cultural landscape is. And now I would like to continue with cultural landscape transformations and some selected examples, not from Lithuania, but from other parts of Europe. If we talk about transformation of cultural landscape, a very good example is Ostrava. It's, I think, not only in Ostrava, but Ostrava is quite good to show what transformation can be. It means that we transform originally agricultural area into a developed industrial area, but after this developed industrial area is closed, this is a case of iron factory that worked and produced a lot of, I don't know, steel and irons and heavy metals. And it was closed, and people just didn't know what to do with such factory very close to the city center. It's not far, because Ostrava was growing, and this factory was just going back or nearer to the city and to the city center. So they decided to find a new way and something like new needs, what they need to provide. And this is a special case because they opened the factory to public, and they made create a cultural center inside of an old factory. So the way how we transform the past of a place to the new form can be seen in Ostrava, as they made a very, let's say, dirty and heavy factory modern cultural center. So this is one example from Czech Republic. Then it's Nuraghi de Palmavera in Italy, in Sardinia, and in cultural landscape, it's very connected with the Convention of UNESCO. They want to protect world and cultural natural heritage. And I decided to put this example because this is also the question of what Nuraghi were. We do not have almost any idea why the settlements like this were built in Italy. What culture was around them, we just do not know nothing. We have only this material remnants, and we have to just find a way and find some maybe new ideas what search for. And this is the question in cultural landscape, that the fear of losing roots, past and landscape, it means the fear of missing landscape. It's a trend when you do not know and we do not remember why it was built and what it searched for. So that's the question of just having the materialized cultural remnants, and not this, let's say, software, why it was built and what it searched for. So in Nuraghi de Palmavera, it's transformed. They are just doing some new constructions in such places, but we do not know what it was and what it searched for. So the memory is not the topic, because we don't know. Then it's the RENET in France, and it's the question of different cultural heritage, because cultural heritage can be tangible and intangible. And in this form, we are in France, and we can see different megalithic monuments. There is plenty of them in the region of Brittany, and they were changing in space and time and constantly transformed. So we now want to remember this heritage, and France is very, very, I can say, very well developed in dealing with cultural heritage and let's say also building cultural landscape. So they decided to put or to build, this is a new monument on the photo, so it's not from the past, it's really new, it's in the university campus. And they wanted to commemorate the past, the memory of the region, by building new, very similar, let's say, megaliths, but in modern form. So this is real place. This is not an imagination. And there were also used some mathematical principles how they were built. It's the same structure as the monuments or megaliths were built in the past. So this is a way how they deal with cultural landscape and with memory in a region. Once again, Lithuania and Hill of Crosses. This is a very special place, and I've been wondering that if this Hill of Crosses is not in Lithuania, I would say that if it's everywhere in Europe, it's maybe destroyed or not so popular. But I think that in your case, the significance of this cultural monument is extremely important. And as it's written, it's a landscape-rooted, intangible heritage, because it consists also of a landscape-rooted, intangible heritage elements. It's place of memory, also maybe you can say place of suffering, because it commemorates us of the past. So it's a good example to show how region can deal with not very nice events from the past, and how it can be transformed into such a monument like Hill of Crosses. So for me, this is kind of cultural landscape in a region too, and especially that carries a significance, a very significance linked to identity, to culture, and to nation of Lithuania. Warsaw and Poland. This is very interesting place because it looks like before, but you know that Warsaw was destroyed during the World War II, and that's the question of speaking territory and also silent territory. We can say that this territory is speaking because when you know a little bit of what in Poland happened and how it was completely reconstructed and rebuilt it, so you can say that it's a speaking territory. But from the opposite side, if we look at the Warsaw as destroyed, and if we know that all the buildings we look at it are new, we know that it's a kind of silent territory, that it has almost nothing common with the past, and it's just new structures that are built to look like before. But also connection with region, connection with nation, with identity, and especially this, let's say, difference between Warsaw and Krakow, because Krakow is still protected and was protected during the Second World War, and Warsaw was destroyed. So it carries a kind of significance as well. This photo is the only one from Slovakia, and loss of sense of the city. A few years ago, I wrote an article about this part of Zvolen, and I wanted to show the post-memory in Slovak context. Now it's interesting to see how we forget. It means this what I told you about the cultural amnesia is really something what happened, and we just disappear, or just the cultural layers of the city disappear and are replaced by a new form. This photo is maybe 1 year ago made on the place, and now this building is just a new housing estate. It means that people can buy a house in such a place. And what they commemorate, and why I say that at the loss of the city, there will be no connection with the past and with this very special events or communities that were placed in this part of city. I don't want to talk more because I will just go over the time. So this is for me, and to me, very interesting to see how it changed and how we just really disappear, or how the cultural layers are disappearing. And at the end of presentation, I would like to talk also about colorscape, because colorscape is a new trend in cultural landscape research, and its impact is on colors, and colors as is the most important factor for objects to be distinguished, identified, and notified. And we started to search for colors of cities. It means so in what color they are made and what colors are in public spaces. So also psychological effect on people. And colors can determine and define the landscape in many ways. In case of Paris, France, that was built or rebuilt in the 19th century, and almost all the city center and the Paris we know looks like this. I mean, in this color, in these shapes, in this architecture. And if there are new creations, they still continue and using the similar structure, similar colors. And I think that in the future of research, the colorscape will be very, very, very important. To make some conclusion, I wanted to show you some examples from different regions in Europe, and also I wanted to tell you more on research, or just introduction into research of cultural landscape, because it's a very huge topic. And the concept of cultural landscape is not something external, but a part of us. We are part of cultural landscape, and we are a landscape. And philosophically speaking, a landscape would not be a cultural landscape without people. It means that the effect on how the cultural landscape looks like, it means how we care of it and what we want to see around us. And I think the culture is very important, and what also Professor Serafina said in the first presentation, I think the culture is now not in the top position because of also pandemic, and we have to keep some economical preferences. But I think the culture is very important, and we can show how we are cultural by taking care of our cultural heritage and cultural landscape around us. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for attention, and if you have some questions, I'm open to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Professor Jana. It was really interesting for us to listen to your presentation about speaking and silent territories, and we hope that every region may have those speaking territories as well as cultural places protecting us from cultural amnesia, like you mentioned. So thank you very much for such significant insights from the cultural view of point. And we hope that you will get some questions in the discussion part. And now we would like to move to our last presenter. I would like to invite Professor Regina Kvašytė. She will give us a presentation about science of Lithuanians in Canada, names of national realia, and Regina, as you know, presents the Institute of Regional Development, Vilnius University Šiauliai Academy.
At various times, quite many Lithuanians settled in Canada, a multicultural country. First of all, in the biggest cities, Toronto, Winnipeg, were inhabited by Lithuanian immigrants. Lithuanian immigration to Canada started in around 1900 and became especially active after the World War II. Communities are formed in the locations of condensed habitation of some nationalities. Lithuanians who settled in the compact manner formed communities, parishes, established societies, and other gatherings. In the immigration, various activities, events, church service will be performed, commemoration would be arranged, radio programs broadcasted, if possible, even TV programs, publications such as newspaper, magazines, and books would be issued. All that provide conditions for the usage of language, not only in personal family communication, but also for the public needs of the society. It is natural that some linguistic signs appear in public areas. In encyclopedic manuals, books, articles prepared and published by Lithuanian Canadians, we may find information on how Lithuanians created their lives in the foreign multicultural Canada. For example, books for Gaida, and Milda Denise. Willing to retain their national identity and perpetual cultural memory, Lithuanians who arrived in Canada tried to name organizations, publications, organized celebrations, etc. by names of the locations, objects, phenomena, or national realia that they appreciate. The aim of the research is to find out what national realia names are used in names of organizations of Lithuanian Canadians. The major sources of the research is the Lithuanian Canadian Communities Encyclopedia, Kanados lietuvių organizacijų žinynas, a catalog of organizations of Lithuanian Canadians, and newspaper Tėviškės žiburiai, the Light of Homelands. Common words, equivalentless lexis, naming national, both cultural and historical realia, were chosen as symbolical names of some organizations. The words cause associations with motherland, reflects its national identity. Equivalentless lexis, or according to other researchers, lacunas, such lexis is popular in the community of Lithuanian Canadians. Semantic groups of names of national realia is music instruments. For example, Birbīne, a youth folk music ensemble in Toronto. Folk dances, Gyvataras, a folk dance group in Hamilton. Songs, Sutartinė, a song ensemble in Toronto. Historical and ethnographical realia, Litas, a credit union in Montreal, Vytis, sports club in Toronto, Romuva, organization of scouts, etc. And some examples for this lexis and this organization, name of this organization. Birbīne, it's a music instrument reed pipe, a Lithuanian aerophone that can be either single or double reeded and may or maybe not have a mouthpiece. Birbīne can be made of the variety of materials, wood, bark, horn, etc. Gyvataras, a Lithuanian folk dance, and here can you see emblem of folk dance group of Hamilton, it's such a name. Sutartinė, a Lithuanian polyphonic song. Sutartinės are included in the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, UNESCO, in 2010. And this name came from verb sutarti, to be in concordance, in agreement, and is a form of polyphonic music, highly unique example of folk music. Romuva, a contemporary continuation of the traditional ethnic religion of the Balts people, reviving the ancient religious practice of the Lithuanians before their Christianization in 1387. Litas, a credit union in Montreal, and Litas, a former currency of Lithuania. Litas was the currency of Lithuania until the 1st of January 2015, when it was replaced by euro. The Litas was first introduced on the 2nd of October in 1922, when Lithuania declared independence and was reintroduced on the 5th of June 1993. The name was modeled after the name of the country Lithuania. Vytis is name of sports club in Toronto, and Lietuvos Vyčiai, organization of American Lithuanians. The coat of arms of Lithuania, consisting of an armor-clad knight on horseback holding a sword and shield. It is also known as Vytis Chase. It is one of very few containing symbolism adopted from ducal portrait seals rather from coats of arms of dynasties, which is the case for most European countries. This symbol are found in various emblems. You can see St. John's Lithuanian Cemetery in Mississauga, and Vytis is in this monument, and in emblem of Lithuanian nursing home Vytis too. One of important symbols is the column of Gediminas, or pillars of Gediminides, are one of the earliest symbols of Lithuania and one of its historical coats of arms. They were used in the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, initially as a ruler's personal insignia, a state symbol, and later as a part of heraldic signs of ruling aristocracy. During the can you see the columns of Gediminas, and here is Vilnius Manor in Toronto. This slide, you can see this emblem here. Particular Lithuanian national realia are found in emblems and other symbols of organizations. Therefore, we can claim that both the same realia in and their names are attributes of national self-expression. It is important for Lithuanians living outside their motherland. Okay. You can see this various Lithuanian organizations in Mississauga, and your emblems and names. And, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. It is really interesting how Lithuanian cultural insights, historical insights are appearing in the other part of the world in Canada. So thank you very much for sharing your ideas. And now we are going to the last part of this meeting. It's our discussion part. We see that Rita Regina Trimonine would like to ask. So please, Professor, your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to ask Professor Pechnikova, you said about the Hill of Crosses, and that this common object for landscape of Western Europe. So maybe you can say, and you know, others such hills of crosses, because I know one hill in Lithuania and other in Poland, and Orthodox hill, and also historical tradition in western and northern part of Lithuania in the 17th century. Thank you.
Yes, maybe I will just explain what I wanted to say, because I don't want to say that it's not, you cannot find a cross of hills in the Europe. It's not true. Of course you can, but this one is with a very special significance linked with the memory and identity. It means that this one is, from research point of view, very interesting because of this. I'm maybe not the best person to explain why it was important from Lithuanian people, but as I found, and as I read, because I read about you, it was destroyed several times and it's still appearing at the same place, and because of ages, it has a very, very special significance, and that's why I wanted to show this example, because it's very connected to your region and to your, let's say, Lithuanian identity. Maybe I'm not right. For me as a researcher, it's interesting to hear what you as a Lithuanian think about this. I'm from external point of view. Maybe other hill of crosses are not so famous or interesting for researchers outside of your country. I don't know. I was just wondering that this can be a nice example of this special cultural significance. That's why I chosen this one.
Thank you so much, Jana, for explanation. I don't see any more raised hands, but I would like to continue to the question to Jana as well to Dr. Martins. The question in the chat line, do you think that we have some measures how to deal with cultural amnesia in different countries? What would be your suggestions?
If I can start, I think that's, of course, a great question, because cultural amnesia is very much related to social changes in society. Along with the changes, with the dynamics, with transformation, people are used to ignore some previously important and salient historical episodes and legacies. And I think I would answer in a very marketing type of way. There are 3 R's which I would emphasize when I think about how to counter, or if not counter, how to deal with to some extent natural processes of forgetting. Namely, there should be first reintroduction. You should reintroduce the topic again, anew. And by this also I mean that it should be recontextualized along with contemporary, along with the if not agenda, then values, interests of contemporary generation and society, and thus also it should be reinterpreted. So reintroduced, recontextualized, and reinterpreted. These are 3 ways how you can cope with amnesia and make the past still important for contemporary society. So, and I think there are, to go back to Aleida Asman, which I didn't discuss, but cultural memory, meaning by this also different cultural manifestations of the past through theater, through artistic language. It's a way how you can reintroduce again the same historical topics and the past in general. Thanks. Good question. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Martins. Jana, would you like to contribute, to add something?
No, I agree with Martin. It's very well explained, and I'm just really wondering about how we deal with, let's say, cultural monuments and heritage, and how we introduce the cultural legacy to modern generations. Maybe that's the question, because we need to find a bridge between the monuments and cultural heritage and the new generation, and especially in terms that we are, let's say, burned under monuments. They are almost all around us. But it's the question, I don't know how is it in Lithuania or Latvia, how we deal with cultural heritage and the messages, symbols, and so on, and what we want to keep in our memory. That's maybe also the question, what we want to keep, that, and who decides what we keep. That was my question when I started to talk, that who and why and what. So I cannot answer now. Maybe in next year I will come back with an answer. That's all.
Thank you so much. I would like to continue, if it's possible. One colleague from the Nicolaus Copernicus University in Poland was emphasizing the importance of the policy of memory. Maybe instruments of this policy could contribute to the dealing with cultural amnesia as well. So maybe next year we could think about the session and talking and enhancing this topic in this context. So thank you very much, colleagues, for your wonderful insights. And if it's possible, I would like to continue with our colleagues, Professors Gleb and Richard. I know that it is kind of strange, I guess, to present your music online without a live meeting. Could I ask how this pandemic period influenced your creating processes as well as your music? Does it change somehow the presentation? Does it change the creation process?
Thank you for the question. I think if we speak about our Octopus duo, it doesn't change as much because we are, anyway, we are in different countries and in different cities, and we can't organize rehearsal every week or maybe, no, like it could be possible if we live in one country, because simply now we are waiting for opportunities. Of course, presenting music online is better than not to present it at all, and we hope that maybe in autumn we have, because we have large repertoire. A lot of music also was recording, and all that music that you heard on our presentation, it was already released on our CD. And we just need few rehearsal, maybe 1, 2 rehearsal. It depends how much time we have, and we can play concert program. So for us, it's not a problem. And for example, if there will be opportunity to play live on the next conference, we just arrive, we make 1 rehearsal in concert hall and we play. So for us, of course, its period is, in some aspects, it's easier maybe because, as I noticed, reading lectures for students, sometimes it's even better because I can share links, I can share materials, it's even faster. But of course, for live music and live on especially practical lessons, of course, it's not the best time, but we just doing what we can and hope for the better times.
So I guess the culture adapts the pandemic conditions as well.
Of course.
In this case. So thank you very much, colleagues, for sharing your insights. And I would like to continue with Professor Regina. You have presented this Canada case. My question would be how you found the interest in this particular country. What are your links with Canada?
Thank you for the question. We have at the Faculty of Humanities at Šiauliai University a Canadian room. This room was established in 2001. It's 20 years ago. But interest in Canada started early. In 1999, this was prompted by contacts with academicians of the University of Latvia, my colleagues for a long time. Also named the Canadian Room, but activities of the Cultural Center. And my first and only visit to Canada was the occasion in 2008 when the onomastic Congress was held in Toronto. And then I had the opportunity to get a closer look with Lithuanian life in Toronto and in surrounding areas in Mississauga. And I meet interesting peoples, and my impressions later became basis for scientific interest. Thank you.
So, Professor, as I understood, you have very close links to the community in Toronto with some academicians, and it is great that you can continue this research line and present results in this conference. And we hope for next year we will hear more about continuing research and its results. So thank you very much, Professor. And as our time is coming to the end, I would like to express my gratitude for each of presenters for your kind contribution to the 10th International Interdisciplinary Conference about regional issues, and taking into consideration such important issues like Professor Dalius Rafinas mentioned, history, culture, and language as main dimensions to form the strong society and to engage citizens to create the welfare. So, dear colleagues, our plenary session came to the very end. Thank you very much for your kind contribution, for your all interesting presentations. This record of this plenary session will be given online for everybody who will be interested in such topics, and we hope that somebody from other countries listening to your presentations will gain more ideas about possible cooperation, about some common projects, and even maybe working together in the same scientific field